Okay, welcome back. So great. So we can put in the keywords, but let's try something else out here. Quote backslash n. We have optional. OPTIONAL. Optional parameters. Okay. So we'll create a function def and call it add stuff, add stuff. And I'm going to go x comma and y equals 100. Okay. And then a block that just prints out x plus y. Okay. Now, this is going to add two things. But if the y is not given, it will optionally keep it at 100. So here, I'll call it down here. I'll go add stuff. I don't know, give it 200. Let's say 200. It doesn't matter what. You can give it another number. And 100. Okay. And let me call it again. Add stuff. Haven't run it yet, but say 200 and say 1,000. Whatever. Just add two numbers. And I'll run it. And sure enough, it adds the number and prints them out, just like what the function says here for me on line 62. But if I leave out one of those attributes and just say 200, it's going to print out and use y here as an optional default parameter. Now notice one thing about that. I don't have spaces between before and after the equal. Okay, notice that. That's just a convention for parameters. So if I run this, I won't get an error. It actually prints out 300 because it uses this 100 here as y when none is given. As you can see, there's none given here. Okay. So this is a way of putting default values and giving them a value if they're left off inside the call. Okay? Now, there's another part to this where we would say making an argument optional without the function crashing is what we're looking for. Just like, it's kind of like default parameters, parameters, just like default parameters, they are listed at the end of the list, end of the parameter, P-A-R-A-M-E-T, parameter list. Okay, so right up here is what I'm talking about. They're listed at the end. Okay, the first ones so they're listed here at the end when we call them. Now, here's the example. Okay, let's just think first name, last name, middle name. So I want something that prints those out and make the middle name optional. Okay, so define a function and call it format names 2. Now here, way up here, I had a function format names. Okay, and I gave it a first name and a last name. Up for me, line 30. But here I'm creating a second one of these, NAMES2, and I'll give it, in this case, I'll give it a first name, an F name, and I'll give it an L name, okay? Okay, and then I'll give it an M name for middle name, and I'll set that equal to just an empty string, okay? And then create a block, and I'll put a doc type, and it says formats names with middle name optional. Okay, so that's what the function will do. So I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to use an if statement. Let's go if middle name. In other words, does middle name exist? If so, then the full name will equal, and then I'll use a format string. Format. Okay, and put the first name, and then the middle name, and then the last name. Okay, interpolate this. Okay, and that's just a string. Okay, does that look right? N-A-M-E, not name. Okay, so I'm defining a variable. I haven't used it yet, but I'm defining it. Otherwise, I'm going to say that the full name, and I'll go ahead and type. You can copy and paste it. You have that luxury. F name and last name. N-A-M-E. Okay. So now that I've made the selection and defined what full name and last name are, I'll return it. R-E-T-U-R-N, full name, and I'll go ahead and put a title on it. Title method for that string type. Okay? So this is what the function does. It assumes that it's blank and then checks for blank. If not, then it was rewritten. Okay, so the call would look something like this, and it doesn't do any printing out, by the way. So I have to print it out down here, print, and then I'll just call the function, the second one, format, names, format, names _2, and I'll give it some names of people. Say Mike, M-I-K-E, Devon, D-E-V-O-N, put that in a string form. D-E-V-O-N, and I'll give him his middle name is Jumbo. Okay, and it will probably print that out. I need another parenthesis there in the print. Okay, it'll probably print that out. Let me run it to make sure it works. Sure, Mike, Jumbo, Devon. It prints out and titles it. Prints out his middle name in the right place, his first name, and his last name. But what if I leave that off? So you can copy and paste this to catch up with me, or let me just go print on. But let me go ahead and print it out. The second one, format _names _2. And you may find that it offers you those already. It auto senses. And I'm just leaving that off so I don't type too fast or get lost myself. So this time I left off Nightshade's middle name, and then I'll run it, and sure enough it just prints out Nightshade the cat, and it didn't crash. Okay, so the idea here is that we created a function, and up here, right before this, in this video, we put in y equals, we didn't have spaces around the equal, where we say, hey, if nothing's there, then give it this value. Here, we assumed it to be empty, and then you either override it or not, and then we created a conditional on that, on whether the person overrode it in the call as an attribute, an extra attribute to the list. Okay? So with that said, I'll see you in the next video.